Okay, so I'm going to begin the modeling of the first project here, the business card holder. Start a new file in Solidworks. Click OK. This project is in inches. I'm going to come down, make certain my units are set to inch pound second. I'm going to go up to Tools, and then going to go to my Options, Document Properties, pull down my overall drafting standard, set it to ANSI, very first thing. Next thing to do is to go click on Dimensions in the Drafting Standards tree. For inches, the project wants to have 4 decimal places. So I set my primary precision to 1, 2, 3, 4 and say OK. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch out the business card holder. I'm going to start off. The business card holder sits essentially kind of like on the table. Looking at my isometric view here, you have to imagine that the part would be sitting on the top plane. I'm going to draw this profile, so I'm going to draw that on my front plane. Create my construction geometry, getting coincidence with the origin, getting a horizontal relation, pick the endpoint. I want to continue drawing, but I want to break that chain, so I right mouse click and hit End Chain. Then I'm going to draw some vertical construction geometry, getting my inference to origin and also getting my horizontal relation inference. And I'm going to end the chain again, right mouse click, End Chain. Now I'm going to change over to turn off construction geometry and begin creating standard regular lines, non-construction geometry. So I'm going to draw from my origin. I'm going to draw my shape. It's roughly 1.2 inches tall. Goes over 1 inch. So I'm looking at the coordinates next to my pencil. Just going to begin roughly sketching this out from here. Not going to worry too much about things. Just going to get some things down on the screen. Close my sketch. I'm going to maximize my SolidWorks window for a moment to turn on my shaded sketch contours. That will show me that my sketch is shaded, which means that my sketch is fully closed everywhere. I'm going to begin applying some dimensions. 1 inch 200 here. Type in 1.200, hit enter. Have 2 inches right here. 2.0, enter. Have a 1 inch length right here. 1.0, enter. I have a distance from this line to that line of 0.250. I have a height from here to there of 0.500. The distance from my construction line to that face right there of 1.750. You can see that my geometry has somewhat folded over on itself. I'm just going to get out of my smart dimensioning mode, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull that over just to get it back to something I can see and work with. Go back into smart dimensioning, snap a dimension on that edge right there, which is 0.3800. And then I'm going to do an angular dimension. Pick that line, pick that line, place my dimension. 45 degrees is what it's supposed to be. And my sketch is completed. Everything is black. I have all the dimensions that I need to fully define this sketch. I'm going to exit my sketch. Now I'm going to go to my Features tab, and I want to create something, so I'm going to use Extruded Boss Base. I'm going to pick on that, being that I only have one sketch in my tree. It went ahead and chose that sketch. You can see that right now, if I grab my arrows, it's only extruding in one direction or the other from the sketch plane. I want it to extend front and back equally. The part, when it's finished, wants to be 3.5 inches long. So I come over here to my dialog. It says direction 1, and I see this pull down that says end conditioned blind. I am going to change my end condition to be mid-plane. So now if I pull the arrow, I have extruding equidistant in both directions from the plane. That's what I want to have in this particular sketch, or this particular solid. I'm going to put in my overall length, which is 3.5 inches, and hit enter and click the green check, and I have the solid that I wanted to create. At this point, I need to make 3 holes in the top of the part. The holes are on a center line right here that goes from the midpoint of this edge to the midpoint of that edge. So I'm going to create a second new sketch. Go to my Sketch tab, pick on my sketch icon. Instead of choosing front, top, or right plane, I'm going to actually place this sketch on a flat face, that top face right there. First thing I'm going to draw is construction geometry. I want to draw a horizontal construction line. You can see that I'm getting inference to my origin. Pull over to the right, and I am getting a horizontal inference also. Going to right mouse click end chain to continue drawing, but break that chain. And now I'm going to get inference on the actual solid. I get my midpoint relation icon next to the pencil. I want to go from the midpoint of that edge to the midpoint of that edge. I'm going to right mouse click, say end chain, and I'm just going to click the green check to OK that. So now I'm going to draw circles. If I zoom in and hover over this line, I can get next to my pencil a coincident relation. If I hover over this line and I move to the midpoint, I get a midpoint relation. I'm going to go ahead and place a circle there. And now I'm going to draw a circle up here. I'm getting my coincident relation shown next to my pencil, and I'm going to force these right now to be visually completely different sizes. In this drawing, it says diameter 0.375. All 3 holes are going to be the same diameter. I'm going to go ahead and make this diameter and that diameter forced to be equal diameters. Choose that first circle, hold down my control key on my keyboard, pick that second circle. I see I have selected 2 arcs. I'm going to force those 2 arcs to be equal. And you can see that the smaller arc enlarged to be the same as the arc right here. Say OK on that. Now I am going to mirror this arc that I have selected right now across this center line to give me my third circle. It's not an arc, sorry, it's a circle. I'm going to pick this circle, mirror it in the sketch about this center line down here. That will give me symmetry. The dimension here, 2.625 inches, is to be symmetrical up and below from the center line. So I'm in my sketch tab, I go to mirror entities. Which entities to mirror? I pick that circle and I put my focus to the mirror about field and I pick that center line. So now I have my three circles. If I were to grab this center and begin to drag it back and forth, I see that the other circle is symmetrical no matter where either of them are placed. I can grab this one. That's what I want to have. I have a dimension 2.625 inches, so I'm going to go into Smart Dimension. I'm going to pick the center of that circle and the center of that circle, place my dimension, type in 2.625 and hit enter. Now I have to dimension the diameter. So I'm just going to pick this upper circle, place my dimension, type in 0.375 and hit enter. All three circles updated because all three circles are tied to being equal. Say OK on that. Now I want to create three holes that go all the way through this part. I'm going to exit my sketch, go back to my Features tab. When I want to create something, I use Extruded Boss. When I want to cut something away, I'm going to use Extruded Cut. It's selected my sketch already. You can see that it is creating three cylinders that will be cut away from three solids actually. Three cylindrical shapes that are solids. They will be removed from the first shape that I created. Under my end condition, blind, I am going to go ahead and give it an end condition of through all. What that does will tie the length of those holes to the upper and the lower face of this part. If the part height was to change, the holes would still go through that part. Say OK. You can see that I have three holes going through my part now. Now just as an example to show, I am going to go into the sketch for my original shape and I'm going to edit this dimension of 1.200 and I'm going to make it 5 inches. I'm going to exit the sketch and say rebuild, which is the stoplight up here, just to make sure everything is rebuilt. If I rotate my part around, you can see that those holes still go all the way through that part. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo those changes, get back to where I was, rebuild it, still have the holes going through. I'm going to go into the cut extrude that defines my holes and I'm going to edit that feature. I'm going to change this back not from through all, but I'm going to change it back to blind. And I'm going to give it a distance of, this part is 1.200 tall. I'm going to make it just a little bit longer to show that the cylinders that will cut away the holes are longer than the part is now. So when I say OK, I hit my rebuild, we can see that those holes go all the way through that part. Okay, so let's go back and change the height of the part again. I change this to 5 inches like I did before. Exit my sketch, say rebuild. Now the part does not have holes that go all the way through. The point there was that when I use blind and I give it a distance, if my part ever gets taller than the distance that I gave the depth of those holes to be, then the holes will no longer go through. So I can always go back. I'm going to go into my cut extrude. I realize that I need those holes to go through the part. Go ahead and edit my feature. And I say, I'm going to make those through all now. If I say OK, now the holes go all the way through the part. If I go back to the sketch of my original shape and I change it back to 1 inch 200, the holes will still go through the part. No matter how tall that part gets, those holes will always go through that part when you use the function of through all. Now I want to chamfer the top edges of the holes and the bottom edges of the holes. Under my Features tab, there's the fillet. If we pull that down, there's a chamfer feature. Go ahead and click on that. You can chamfer the entire solid. You can chamfer faces. You can chamfer only edges. In this case, I'm going to pick that face. I'm going to go ahead and change my size for now. It's way too large. I want 0.030 inches. You can see that it's putting a chamfer in yellow on my top face, my top edge, and my bottom edge. I'm going to hold down my control button, pick the second cylinder and the third cylinder or the third hole. Because I picked the faces, any edges associated to those faces will get chamfered. I could have picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different edges, but I just decided to pick 3 surfaces. Since those edges are tied to those surfaces, all edges tied to those surfaces will get chamfered. Just a way to minimize the amount of work picking on the screen that you have to do. Click the green check. I have my completed solid with 3 holes, my chamfers on the tops and the bottoms of those holes. Now I'm going to go ahead and change the color of my completed solid. I'm hovering over, not picking anything, right mouse click. I'm going to come over to the appearances. I'm going to pull this down, go down to part 2, and it will now allow me to change the color of my part. I'm going to go ahead and make this one blue. To make this go away, just pick in the white area. And now I'm going to go File, Save As. I'm going to go to my Manufacturing 110 drive, Modeling 1, M. Metzinger with a date. That's the folder I'm working in. In reality, this is my Modeling 1, 01, M. Metzinger. I'm going to put today's date. I drew this the other day, but I'm going to go ahead and do it again so we can see that we have modeling. 01, which refers to the 01 business card holder, my last name, my first initial, Rev 01, 0330, 2019. Say OK. And that completes this first modeling project.